Hello, we are back with another Forsaken video, and this one is different from the other ones. The first one, I talked about the origin of the game and how it came to light. The second one, I talked about the massive skin batch that is coming to the game. Half of that skin batch is now in-game, which is awesome. And now, I wanted to talk about some ideas and concepts I've had for the game that honestly all kind of came to me today. So, I jotted all of these down because I wanted to talk about all of them because I feel like the player base would like these ideas. Now, let it be known that these are just my ideas. I'm not critiquing the game, I'm not dogging on the game. These are simply ideas I've had, and I didn't know whether I wanted to make this video public or not. I thought I just kind of wanted to share it among friends because I would use this video as a way to gather my thoughts and then send it to them and see what they think. But actually, I am very curious on what the community would think of the ideas I have to provide. So definitely let me know what you guys think about all the things that I'm going to mention in here. So, I feel like these ideas would help definitely make Forsaken more enjoyable to play. I still think the game is very fun, and I do play it very frequently, but I definitely do think that there are some aspects that could be changed to make the game have a more strategic aspect to it. Stuff like that. And also to reduce some, I don't really want to say toxicity, but more so stacking, and we'll kind of get more into that in a moment. So, I wanted to talk about how the game begins, and this is when stacking is going to become relevant. I feel like it would be cool if players were prompted with a loading screen that's similar to Overwatch. If you remember in Overwatch, it shows the character you're choosing, and only one person can choose one character. I know there's a different game mode where you can choose any character and there's no limit, but we're just going to view it as if this was just like a regular quick play, and only one person can be one character. During this, they would choose their own survivors, and there would be a max cap of 2 per survivor. I don't want it to be exactly like Overwatch, where there can only be one of each survivor. I feel like that would be kind of but I think that a cap of 2 per survivor is definitely fair. There's 8 survivors and 1 killer, so there would be a limit of only 2 of each survivor in the trial. People honestly stack too often, at least from what I've seen. It can get pretty annoying going against a horde of Shilletskis and chances, as well as sometimes there's Elliotts in the mix of that to support them and prevent them from dying. And honestly, same goes for 1-3-3-7 stacking. If you would go against multiple 1-3-3-7s and you're chasing one, another one can just charge into you and that will knock you for a minute. It'll stop you in your tracks, and then the one that you were previously targeting is long gone. I think adding a survivor cap not only stops people from stacking all the time, but it also enables players to learn new survivors, because having a second or third pick in case the survivor you were planning to choose has already been fully capped is always good, because then, you know, players are spicing up their gameplay by choosing other survivors. They're not just playing the same one every time. And I think having a little more taste to your color palette is what you want. Taste? Flavor. More flavor to your color palette. And speaking of 1-3-3-7, he's our next talk. I feel like 1-3-3-7 should get a revamp. I think right now he's definitely not a bad survivor, but in my personal opinion, I just feel like he's kind of like Shiletsky but with extra steps. His charge ability isn't really too beneficial in a chase. It's like only good when the killer is approaching and you manage to knock them off a ledge. So, like glass houses or Yorick's. Yorick's only has like some specific areas like the graveyard. I mean, you can knock them off there and they have to like go around. As well as, oh yeah, also the mountain on Yorick's. And the new map inside that one area where there's just like an open railing, you can knock them off that. That's like the most toxic area to knock the killer off right now. But again, that's very situational, and it has a higher probability of honestly backfiring on you. His block ability is extremely predictable, and killers just honestly wait out the block. I literally just wait out the block. There's no point in, like, if you haven't seen him do the ability, you're just gonna wait for it. And even if he does manage to land his block, his punch ability is also very annoying to hit sometimes. I will play killer matches, and if I fail to bait out the block, I can still bait out the punch. So, it's not really, it's a lose-lose situation for the survivor. The only thing that makes him better to use than Shiletsky is now he has a longer stun time of 4 seconds. Hi, you may have heard a few moments ago that I just said that 1-3-3-7 has a longer stun duration than Shiletsky, so that makes his punch seem more rewarding. It appears I was lying, as I just got done recording footage of 1-3-3-7 and Shiletsky performing both of their stun abilities on the killer. I watched back at the footage and realized that Shiletsky still has a significantly longer stun time, regardless of having it nerfed to 3.25 seconds. So, 1337 does not actually have a 4-second long punch. I lied. He has a very short stun duration, and he needs a revamp. Thank you very much. Seconds, and he has 115 HP. But Shiletsky's stun time is 3.25 seconds, which is still pretty good, and he always has it on hand. It's like I think a 30 or 16 second recharge time. I can't remember. I play so much Shiletsky and I can't remember his sword recharge time, but yeah. He may only have 100 HP, but he's still capable of healing himself, so most people just prefer to use him since his stun is also a lot easier to hit. I almost always hit my Shiletsky stun. There will be like rare moments where I miss it, but it's a lot easier to hit. So yeah, people just prefer Shiletsky. I had also noticed that in 1337's model, you can actually see that he has a flashbang, but he doesn't have any flashbang related abilities in game. He was originally supposed to have a flashbang ability, but that was later changed, and now the flashbang ability belongs to the SWAT Officer Survivor, who is a VIP server exclusive. I think part of 1337's revamp should include the flashbang ability being a part of his ensemble, considering, I mean, he is a militant. It would make sense for him to have some sort of tactical gear in his abilities, aside from just being a brute with his fists. And plus, the flashbang would be a new, unique addition to survivors and their abilities, since it inflicts blindness. We don't have a survivor that does that yet. It's like a stun, but it's not directly a stun. It taints the killer's vision. I do definitely think that the flashbang's blindness wouldn't be as strong as it is right now for the SWAT Officer Survivor, but it would still be something like that, because again, there's not really any survivor who has an ability that blurs the killer's vision or like affects it, so I think that it would be cool for 1337 to have that, because again, that's new. You know, it's not just, you know, a block, charge, and stun. He would have, you know, a sort of weapon to disorient the killer, and it would make him a much more strategic survivor, because, you know, I feel like that's right now what he lacks. He's not very strategic, because killers can just predict you. If you're playing 1337, you're better off just using your charge, and yeah. But one thing I do think 1337 should be able to do is, if, you know, this revamp idea never comes to light, he should be able to block projectiles. People predict 1337's way too easily, and at this rate, he's just a walking punching bag. The killer will not swing at you until they see that block get baited out, and that's just a fact. And I think that he should be able to obtain his block from other ways aside from just the killer swinging at them. I believe that projectiles such as entanglement and mass infection, he should be able to block those. And honestly, rejuvenate the rotten and cool kids pizza delivery ability. I think he should be able to block hits from the minions, and if he succeeds a block against said minion, then the minion despawns. I think that that's fair, and it would make 1337 actually be able to use his punch ability most of the time. Because I don't play 1337 a lot. He was the first survivor I began playing when I started really getting into this game. And, you know, his block nowadays, like his block, you got to be pretty strategic with it, and you kind of got to try to predict the killer while the killer's also trying to predict you. So it's a pretty tedious process because, you know, most of the time it's the latter. The killer predicts you, and yeah, it's not very fun. Especially because of the fact that he suffers debuff from missing any of his attacks. Misses his punch, debuff. Misses his block, debuff. Misses his charge, debuff. So, I think that him being able to block projectiles and minions would make his block ability much more useful, since, you know, he has to clutch onto that to even get his punch. So yeah, I feel like 1337 having a revamp involving the flashbang ability would be pretty cool. I don't think he needs like a full-on revamp where his entire moveset changes, but I just feel like, you know, it would be nice if he was a survivor that had more to just being able to stun the killer. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is how the killer should enter a rage phase when they're stunned too many times. Going back to my previous statement regarding stacking, the most common stacks you see are survivors who have stun abilities, Shiletsky and Chance. Elliot was also a common stack as well, but he received a nerf, so honestly it's not as strong as it was beforehand. Also, he can't stun, but he was still a popular stack. But constantly getting stunned left and right can be excruciatingly annoying as killer, especially if you're dealing with a well-coordinated team, because then it's just stun after stun after stun after stun. And I think that the killer should earn some sort of rage state once they've been stunned one too many times. Kind of like how John Doe gets angry when he gets stunned. I know he only gets speed 1 from getting stunned, but it's a little bit of my vision. It's like a stronger force. Using Friday the 13th as an example, Jason has a passive rage ability that slowly increases over time, and when he takes damage or gets stunned, the rage meter increases quicker. I think that killers should have a sort of rage meter that makes them a significantly larger threat when they've been stunned one too many times, getting maybe a buff or something else that makes them stronger and makes survivors want to run for their lives. Because right now, you know, it's just constantly stunning the killer. There's not really anything intimidating about them, especially if you just have a strategy to kind of soft lock them, if you will. Now, this is kind of relevant to the stuns and stuff. I wanted to talk about the fact that the killers have health. In my personal opinion, I believe that the knowledge of the killer themselves having health really reduces the scare factor that they're meant to have. I think the killers shouldn't have health, but they should be able to be killed. Using the Friday the 13th as an example again, expect that a couple times, you have to do specific tasks in order to properly kill Jason. You have to first hit him enough times to the point where his mask falls off. Then you have to go to his cabin and acquire his mother's sweater, make sure said sweater is worn by a female survivor so Jason falls to his knees upon seeing them, and you need Tommy Jarvis present in the trial to kill Jason with specifically a bladed weapon. This tedious task is what makes teamwork crucial in the game, and it would really make the gameplay of the trials require a lot more team communication, which would honestly be awesome. I like games that require team communication, especially horror games. Killing the killer was not something that the survivors would always work to do, but it was definitely an option if they wanted to attempt it. It would be an arduous task that wouldn't happen every round when attempting to do so, but you know, it would still be an option if, you know, maybe you were playing with your friends, or maybe even the group you were with in the server was working to do the strategy to kill the killer. I think examples of this would be like, you need to have a 007 present in the trial so you can kill Cool Kid, or you need a Shedletsky to be present in the trial to kill a 1X. Things like that I think would make the game require a lot more teamwork, and if you are a well-coordinated group, it would feel very rewarding successfully killing the killer by doing all of the required tasks. I think that that would be one of the coolest features, you know, having to really work together to kill the killer. So the next few things that I'm going to talk about aren't as big as the ones that I just talked about prior. The ones that I just talked about, like the previous 5 things, I just kind of wanted to get all the big ones out of the way and then talk about my tiny little nitpicks. These would just be things that I guess you could label as quality of life, or just, you know, small little things that I feel like people would like as well as I would like. So the first one I wanted to talk about was skin credits and chase theme previews. I think that the skins in game should definitely have credits that show who helped make the skin, make the chase theme, and sometimes even the voice lines, like, you know, Demon King, John Doe, and Betrayed 1X have voice lines. So I think it would be cool if you could see the credits of who did the different things for said skin. I think it would also be a cool feature to have an area where you can preview the skin's chase theme to get an idea of how it will sound when you use it in game. Now this one I know is probably just me, you know, thinking it would be cool. I don't know if a lot of people would also like that. That's just kind of a me thing. But I know that some of the skins that are notably different from how the killer looks have their own chase themes, and I feel like being able to get to listen to those before buying it is just a nice feature that would also maybe motivate a player to buy the skin. Like previewing Champion 1X's chase theme, or previewing Gasharpoon John Doe, stuff like that. Just getting to hear what it sounds like. Not like getting to hear every individual layer, but maybe like the beat drop part of the chase. So I think that that would be pretty neat. I'd also thought it would be a cool idea if people were able to see the skin in its entirety via preview instead of just like a render. But when I gave that idea, I was told that it's basically pretty strenuous to do. It was going to be like some viewport type stuff where you could get like an entire 3D view of how the skin would look in game instead of just, you know, using the render. The render is pretty accurate though to how the skin will look in game. You know, like the lighting doesn't really affect it too much. But I thought it would just be cool if you'd be able to get a 3D view of the skin to make the shop, you know, more lively. Adding on to the skin topic of things, there was also another part that I forgot to mention because it actually just hit me today when I was discussing it with some of my friends. I think it would also be nice if skins had rarities, because then you kind of know what skins are going to have, like, you know, exclusive content like voice lines, exclusive chase themes, or like intro, outro, and execution animations. I think that skins having rarities would be very awesome, because then users can tell, you know, I don't want to say special because I feel like special isn't the right term, but you can tell like why a skin is priced a certain way and why it has that rarity. you know, skins like 1x's recolors like Infernum and Monochrome, since those are just recolors, those would be on the cheaper side with like a common or uncommon rarity. And then characters like Betrayed 1x, because it has an exclusive chase theme and exclusive voice lines, as well as its own kill and intro animation, that would be qualified for a legendary skin. So I think stuff like that would be very awesome, because it would also allow for more consistent pricing, since sometimes the pricing for most of the skins is a little bit all over the place. Not like in a bad way, but it would just be nice because then the prices could actually have their own set organized areas in the shop with, you know, what rarity it is. Like legendaries cost around 1,000 to 2,000, commons cost around 150 to 300, stuff like that. I think that would be very awesome to be in the shop, because then also the vignettes could change, so it's not just a black vignette around every skin render. It could be a different colored vignette, like brown for common, a beautiful like silvery white for legendary. I'm kind of going off of how Dead by Daylight colors their vignettes, or their backgrounds for the skin rarity, but it's because Dead by Daylight is actually a good example with how they label their rarities. There's brown is common, yellow is uncommon, green is rare, purple is very rare, red is ultra rare, I believe it's ultra rare, and then a silverish white is legendary. And speaking of the Dead by Daylight shop, I also think it would be cool if in the future the shop was kind of laid out like Dead by Daylight's. Not of course a one-to-one accurate, but like just like with a front page, having bundles, and also little pages that show you the new stuff that released in the shop. Or, you know, just at least some sort of new icon that indicates that this skin is new content. I think that that would be awesome, and there could also be like a custom render created that has a bundle of all the new skins within, you know, the content as like a bundle that you can look at on the front page. And when you click on said bundle, it shows you exclusively the new stuff. Next, I wanted to talk about an emote wheel. Now, yes, there already is an emote wheel in-game, but you can't use all of the emotes you own if you own more emotes than the slots within the wheel itself. I feel like it would be nice to be able to scroll through different wheels and access all of your emotes at once, instead of only getting to have a small little surplus of them, because there's a lot of emotes in the game, and there's only more to come. And I think it would be nice if you could scroll between emote wheels and just have all of your emotes on standby. The final thing I wanted to address in this video is punishments for teaming and being AFK. Now, this category is going to lean more towards killers who are AFK, because I do know that teaming is punishable by moderation, but I'm going to talk mainly more about AFK, but teaming is still a little bit in the mix here. So, I think that at the beginning of trials, there should be a punishment if the killer or survivor has not moved for like 15 to 20 seconds, because within that amount of time you should already be moving, trying to find objectives or trying to find survivors depending on what team you're on. And I think that if you do not move within that span of time, then a message should appear on your screen warning you that you are about to be auto-killed if you do not move. And if you still do not move after said warning, then it automatically kills you and... or well, maybe not kills you, but it automatically ends the round and then just moves straight to the next round because the killer didn't move. As for teaming, I do know that teaming is punishable by moderators, but I would hope that maybe in the future there could be some sort of anti-cheat that does detect teaming, or can assume when a player and a killer are teaming based on like, maybe like they're in a certain proximity of one another, it's not detecting much movement from them, and it assumes they're teaming, causing them to get punished. Now, that definitely is probably tedious to code. I don't know. I know little about coding, but I can assume that all of that detection and assumptions would be pretty strenuous to code, so this is just kind of a concept. That's why I said it leans more towards being AFK, because the AFK punishment, that's simple. Assuming that a player is teaming with the killer definitely is harder to, I guess, interpret. So, yeah. Especially if people would catch on and know that there is an anti-cheat for teaming, they would definitely look for a way to bypass it. But yeah, I think it would be nice if at the very least the killers or survivors could get punished for being AFK, and if it's a survivor and you're AFK, it just automatically kills you. If you're a killer and you're AFK, then it just ends the round. The AFK survivor being killed also would not add to the killer's time, because that would be goofy if it did. But yeah, that was just my little batch of ideas that I had for the game. I'm very curious on what you guys think. Feel free to definitely let me know what you thought about these ideas. They were just kind of ones that I came up with. Some were today, which is why I had to record some more parts of me talking about it, and also because for whatever reason some of my dialogue cut off in the previous recording. But I did a few other recordings and talked about some other things that infiltrated my brain today, and I wanted to add them to the video before I got it out. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of these ideas, if you like them, if you think they could be adjusted, if you think they shouldn't exist. Please tell me why if you think that last one, and I mean that genuinely. I'm curious on what you guys think. So yeah, just let me know what you think about this batch of ideas. And yeah, that's really it, guys. This was actually really fun to talk about, and this 2v8 gameplay was beautiful. I just want to point that out. I'm kind of self-glazing right now, but I don't care. This 2v8 gameplay was beautiful. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.